Journey into the mysterious alien world of Abydos through the Stargate. Daniel Jackson and Colonel O'Neill battle the evil Ra, but Ra strikes back with a sinister Horus in the wicked wing glider.
Fire! I am Ra, you must obey me. No way!
Then Ra's guard Anubis morphs into a jackal, attacks and captures Jackson. So O'Neill charges to the rescue in the ATC.
Fire!
O'Neill's got the glider in his sights.
And Ra's got trouble!
Stargate, gateway to the ultimate adventure. Figures and vehicles each sold separately.
Okay, show us what you've got.
Stargate.
Next.
Next.
Atlantis.
Thank you.
Next.
Think you've got what it takes to join the SG team? Log on to stargate.sci-fi.com and enter the Get in the Gate sweepstakes. You could win a grand prize walk-on roll in an episode of Stargate SG-1 and the all-new Stargate Atlantis. When you enter, you'll get exclusive access to special Stargate Atlantis content on Yahoo, where the search for Atlantis begins.
It's a great big world.
Where did they find these people?
Don't miss the premieres of Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis.
Boy, do I have a surprise for you.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. Oh, this is actually kind of works out being in the middle. That's not normally how we do it around here, but it does feel pretty cool to have somebody on both sides. It's going to be Hollywood Squares someday, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I doubt that very much, but hopefully you guys are having a great week. Welcome to Talk Hard Tuesday. Here we are. We're going to talk about Stargate. 30 years, man. I can't believe it was 30 years. This one's kind of been on our radar screen for a minute, and then Halo kind of disrupted kind of our schedule for a little bit. And then we're like, how do we get back to it? And just for you guys know, we'll save it to the end. Yes, I did watch the first two-part episode of Stargate SG-1 because we watched this. So I'll give you my take on that a little bit. That I did. Broke the cherry. There you go, guys. You give you a take on that. So here we are with me right here, this guy. What's going on, Loki? How you doing, brother? What's going on?
Doing good, doing good. Can I real quick answer a question that's like floating around in chat?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
I can. Okay.
Hold up.
Pat Ash says, wait, so SQUEEKA is a permanent member of Talk Hard now. Is SQUEEKA here? Where's SQUEEKA?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right here. Hi, Loki.
Hi, SQUEEKA. Pat, to answer your question, we needed an eat me, beat me lady. So we got...
I thought that was IRONCASTER's job.
Wait, what?
Pops knows what I'm talking about. Probably nobody else knows what I'm talking about since me and Pops like... did this whole like, okay, man, dude, the Talk Hard thing and the movie and how badass it is and the role she plays in the movie with Kristen Slater. And yes, we needed her, and we got SQUEEKA, which is even better. So Talk
Well,
Hard.
thank you.
Yeah, we will have to. We had talked about pump up the volume maybe for around the 100th show or so. We didn't really do it for that, so it's going to be one of those things we'll have to do something special for pump up the volume, which inspired the name and kind of the spirit of our show about grabbing hold of your opinion and rocking it, man. Do your thing. So speaking of that, the man, the myth, the legend himself, IRONCASTER brother, busy man you are. It's great to have you in the house, man.
Well, I like to think I can always try to make time for this show here. Oh, am I muted? Oh no, apparently not. Loki. No,
I was just waving. I was like, "What's up, dude?" I'm just like,
I'm doing great. And guys,
sorry, I'm sorry.
So for anyone who didn't see this, And I want to show this off one more time. These SOBs got me probably one of the coolest birthday gifts that I've gotten in since I can remember. Which, unfortunately, there we go. They got me by the suit actor for the original Ultraman. How cool is that?
That is amazing.
Wait, let me go on this side. No, he's shooting at me. Ah! Guys, thank you so much. This is so much more than I was expecting when I heard there's something coming in the mail. I'm thinking, oh, it's cool to be a comic and maybe a couple of more silly stickers, but
no, we love you, brother, and it just one of those things that worked out for us to get, and
it's all his
fault. Reached out to Loki. I said, dude, look at this. Check this out. You're like, yes. So there we go. We made it happen. And yeah, just happy that it worked out and having good timing. Good. Sometimes that's how it works, man. The stars align and you just pull the trigger. You just go for it. So I'm happy you're happy, and seeing your face and sharing it with everybody just warms our heart, man. Because that matters so much more than all the rest of the other nonsense, man. Is a little bit of joy and happiness in your world. And that's great, my friend. So,
I'm going to have to work really hard. I'm going to have to work really hard after this to find a couple of really good movies to watch for the show.
We'll see what makes the list, because we've been working a list there. So speaking of joy and happy, SQUEEKA's in the house. SQUEEKA, what is going on?
Hi. I'm here. I survived the first day of school. I did it. Other than that, that's my only accomplishment. Pardon?
She didn't get stepped on.
I actually did, but it was okay. They were a little slow.
She navigated the hallways of chaos and people running around with their book bags and, oh my God, which one's my locker? And
yes, it was exciting. But I'm here and I'm so excited. I hadn't watched this before, and wow, this movie was wow. I would expect one thing and something else had happened, so it was really exciting. Thanks for having me back, and I'm ready for more movies now.
Yeah, that's great. So,
and I haven't seen that one y'all were talking about. Cool. What is it? Pump Up the Volume.
Pump Up the Volume. Oh, so you didn't know what I was saying? Okay.
No, but I will in a minute.
80s Christian Slater. Really good 80s Christian Slater movie.
80s. I remember the 80s. I think it was like 74 in the 80s, but I remember them.
Yeah, so Pump Up the Volume. It's gonna be a fun one. Like a place like Guerrilla Radio DJ kind of guy. So it'd be super fun to talk about. Yeah. And speaking of DJs, he's in the house. DJ RONNIE G, brother. Thank you. Welcome back. Welcome back, man.
Thanks for having me. It's good. I revel in any excuse to rewatch any Stargate content. Well, not any Stargate content. Okay, I think we know which ones we don't want to watch, but. I'm glad I rewatched it. I wish I watched it a week ago because I've seen it enough times where I don't need to watch it. But in the middle of watching all of the alien language scenes, I had to download the subtitles for that. So did you guys have subtitles for when the aliens are speaking?
Yep.
Okay, good. Then we're in good company.
Yeah, I had alien subtitles for sure.
Excellent. Then we're good because at first
I didn't have subtitles for all the alien stuff, but for like when Ross spoke, I did get subtitles, so some of it was, a mystery. But that was the neat thing, was there was kind of enough body language to kind of inform you what they were implying. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
I agree. That's very true.
Welcome, chat quickly.
All subtitle version.
That's what I had. I played an all subtitle version. Just normally while I go anyway. It kind of subtitled both.
I'll have to watch it again now.
Mine came up for the Aramaic or whatever language the Egyptian and the Abydonians speak, and for the alien scenes. So apparently I found a separate subtitle altogether, which is fine by me. I just wanted to be sure of the context.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, yes. Hail to Chris. He did our new overlay. He is here rocking things from the Great White North. Thank you, my friend. Hail to the tetrarchy of talking hard, indeed. And hail to everyone. Yes. Thank you. Snorty's out there. Hail to you, you great polar bear. Love you. Yes, and SQUEEKA is here, throwing down some love. And yeah, Pat, we've got her locked in. We've got her at least locked into some sort of contract. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully she'll not be like, holy crap, what have I gotten these people into? What have I got these people got me into? But no, we're having a good time. And we're loving the whole behind the scenes thing too. Like she hasn't seen this, she hasn't seen that. So that makes it and just adds so much fun when you get like that first reaction from folks. So yeah, it seems really appropriate that Gap is here. Hey brother, great to see you, my friend.
She's on the couch. I mean, she's on the couch with us, and she's got
Wait,
like
which couch?
Icon. The couch.
The couch below.
Yeah. Sorry, that was
On
a
the
bad joke.
bottom right. Look, you got little like Sailor
I
Moon
thought you meant like the
hair
casting
poops.
couch.
Oh no.
No, wrong show.
I love the little pom pom hair. I love that. I'm like, can I do that? I just need to do that every day now.
All right, Gap saying, yeah, I got all the stuff. No surprise there, brother. Totally get it. Stargate, yeah. Hey, thoughts your Fred Stargate starting to feel like something out of the Raiders Lost Ark because it involves the digging. Yeah, totally for me. I was totally down with this for sure. I didn't see it 12 times in theaters like Loki did, but
do you have the Ascended Daniel Jackson action figure in the cloth cloak? The Ascended Daniel Jackson figure in the cloth cloak. When he's an ascended being. I got one of those.
Pat's saying, yeah, we'll have to make sure we could get some blackjack gum. That's the insider joke for Public
Yes.
Volume. We gotta get some of that over to Ironcaster too. I don't think he actually got some officially. So DJ RONNIE G throwing down the symbols. Loving it. Penny! Love you, lady. Hope you're doing well.
I got to give credit to Gap After Dark. It's literally in his name. I copied and pasted it from him.
It's fantastic. Thank you. Great to see you. Old Gamer made it. Great to see you. Puddle Jumper. Hey, what's going on? Finally got 50 followers over on Twitch. Congratulations, man. That's it. Next 50 will be so much faster. You'll be
For the record, that's a Stargate reference right there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what I didn't think of? I got like a whole box of blackjack gum. So I could send all you guys like a thing of gum. Not like a stick, but like a package of blackjack gum.
Cool.
You can get those at the old 5 and dimes.
We need to
They
get
still
that
got
for,
them. They taste like ass, but
we
that's
need
why I
to
have
get
a whole
one
box
for
that I've
Ironcaster
never
and,
opened.
SQUEEKA for sure. So, well, you send them to me, and I'll on the next box, send it to me, and we'll just kind of dole them out. We send out the next packages to everybody. We'll go from there. So, Princess Leia Rose, great to see you. Paul Jumper, this just Stargate the movie. You're going to do a show? No, just maybe a reference to the show at the very end. You're sticking to the movie for now, kind of like the start of the franchise 30 years ago. We'll have to kind of ease into the show because bear with me, I'm a noob. I'm a Stargate movie person, but I never really watched the shows. But yeah, I did watch SG1's the 2-parter and go from there. So tons of other folks out here. So go ahead.
Oh, just I suppose if we're looking for a place to start with this, Stargate is one of these sci-fi shows that, or really, the movie. This is one that has been on constant replay for me, like ever since I was a little kid. Like I can remember being in the Cub Scouts and hanging out with my friend Joey, whose dad was a big sci-fi fan. I would go over to his house and I would get to watch all the cool movies. Like that was where I watched Transformers the movie, the 80s one. And so we just really got engrossed into Stargate and kind of learning about a lot of the material around it. And I remember the kind of the rumors, the talks that I would hear from his dad of like this, the fact that they were going to be doing a show based on this. So Stargate is just one of these sci-fi series that just has always kind of been there for me, and it brings me back to my childhood in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's such a fun watch, such a fun experience. SQUEEKA, it was your first time. Speak a little bit to that first time experience. Some of your first impressions.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Like just everything. I expected like a super sci-fi kind of show, and I shouldn't have because it is an older movie. But there wasn't a lot of like computery whizzing and gizzing and just all that. It was like when he first walks into it and he just barely touches it and he stands there in awe. I was sitting there in awe and I'm like, I want to touch it. Like I mean, there were a few parts where I had to pause because I was angry or I was crying too much. Y'all didn't warn me I was going to cry at the end. Loki, it's on you. You're supposed to tell me these things.
I did last week. I said you're gonna cry at this one too, and you were like, "Oh God."
I should probably just admit that I'm just gonna cry at all of them. I happy cry, I angry cry, but it was just like it was a incredible just from start to finish, and it never stopped. Like there was never a lull like in some movies where it's kind of like, okay, there's just action happening while you're waiting for the next plot point. Every action point was a plot point, and I think a lot of that came from because of the just the difference in languages and the discovery of one another. Like, and then I do communication for a living. Like that's one of the things I do, like watching that nonverbal communication and learning how to teach children how to talk. So seeing like them learn the other language and using the picture symbols and just like, oh, the whole movie. I mean, if it wasn't so late last night and I didn't finish the movie at midnight, I would have watched it again right after.
SQUEEKA went to sleep going
Oh my god! And the music! I downloaded the soundtrack like right away. I love.
It's back there
message Loki
somewhere.
right away. Like, I cannot believe this has such an underrated soundtrack. This is never mentioned among great soundtracks. And this has got an earworm for a soundtrack. And then we'll get to Ironcaster. He has a whole story about the soundtrack. We'll let him talk about that in a minute. But before I do, let's point out, Chris Persia, for your next homework assignment over the course of the next few weeks, we're going to have to get a avatar or a special little thing we can use for the thumbnail where it's SQUEEKA with a tissue because she's always crying. So that's hysterical. We'll make that an emoji. We'll add that as our next emoji. It'll be crying SQUEEKA. So we need more emoji action out there, you members. Get those Sharkcasters and Loki Zardovs going. Yes, indeed. So we'll have to have a SQUEEKA with a tissue. It'd be great. DJ Ronnie G, where does this land for you, my friend? Because you were super excited and pumped about coming up in here. Just wanted to kind of get your take on this Stargate.
I'll tell you exactly where it basically first time my parents rented it in the mid 90s. There had to be somewhere after 1994 when it was on VHS at the local Palm Video or Blockbuster location, one of those. And to me, it was just that sci-fi show that's not Star Trek. And for half of my childhood, I deprived myself of the joy and fascination that this could have given me, because Star Trek, nothing is better than Star Trek. I mean, it's better than Star Wars. So if, it's better than Star Wars, Star Trek has to be better than Stargate. But when I finally got into this, I was like 18, and I thought it was the coolest freaking thing. I actually got into SG-1 and then went back to the movie, and I was just like, wow, man, I'm glad I'm catching up now, but holy cow. And ever since then, it's been, on equal tier as Star Trek. I mean, maybe not this one movie per se, but yeah, it's like on my tier list right next to Star Trek as things I love.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun because, by the time a lot of this was really on and kind of getting around, you had like the Star Trek, and again, this is kind of getting to a little. Yeah, let me rewind because I keep wanting to go back to the shows and the more expanded universe, and I got to remember to pull myself back and try to really focus in on the movie. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm nerding out because in a way, I love all this stuff for this, but anyway, the thing I find super fascinating with this movie is this effectively is doing what so many other like 90s movies and shows could have been. This was the start ultimately of a bigger sci-fi world. Not only that, this predated like The Mummy, so we're getting into a lot of the Egyptian stuff. Stargate was pretty influential for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I didn't know you were such a huge geek for this franchise. I got to be honest. I don't know how that kind of stayed in the radar screen. Loki, did you know he was a big Stargate geek like this? Because he's been like gung-ho for like 2 weeks.
I know how big of a mecha fan he is. Yeah. So, I mean, it only makes sense that he would be a huge Stargate fan.
Well, yeah, the replicators.
Dun, 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 dun,
oh
dun,
my
dun,
god.
Dun, 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 dun.
For a long time, every time I heard the word replicators during the series, I'm picturing food replicators like in stacks attacking people, which is not what's going on. But anyway.
Oh, I agree. Those helmets, man. Those mechanical helmets that opened up and
Oh, those are cool.
exactly the first time it did that. Oh, I paused and lost it for a little.
Yo.
I was like, oh my god, oh my god.
And the way they talk, the way that they're going through like a voice distortion, so they sound the way they sound, you know, oh yeah, that all works. That all works. The booming, commanding voice, it's perfect.
You know, one of the other things that I think really made this, well, really made the movie work for me as a child was the fact that I was at about that right age where Egypt became the coolest thing, because we all kind of go through that phase where we start to learn about Egypt through ancient Egypt through school, and so you get a lot really engrossed into it, and then here comes this, you know, sci-fi movie about going to like an alien planet and dealing with like all these ancient Egyptian relics, and you know, oh, we're going to space, and here's Anubis and Ra, and you're like, this is so much. Why didn't they tell me about this in school?
I know, right?
Yeah. This is the better history. This is the History Channel I've been waiting for.
Well, the irony is, it would just be so much fun to have like this, you know, teach it in school and then have these little references. Like, you guys have seen Stargate. It's what they're talking about. But Old Gamer, man, you are amongst your own. Talk about a Kurt Russell fan. We'd probably do Kurt Russell movies once a month, but we have to like pace ourselves. We don't drive all you people crazy because we love Kurt Russell movies. So like some of our best talk cards to date. So yeah, we'll get back to some Kurt movies again. So, oh yeah, I just watched The Thing again today. I was like, oh yes.
Oh, except for that one. Except for that one.
You don't like The Thing, or are you just scary movies?
I
body horror.
I watched it when I was 6, and it ruined horror for me. And yeah, I
gotcha.
Well,
except for that one.
Well, you see, SQUEEKA, for me, that was The Blob.
Well, it was also, there's another movie that came out that was like the Creepers or the Crawlers or something. It was some horror movie about these slugs that went in your mouth and lived in your brain and then blew your head out, like open and made more. Like, I don't remember the name of that one, but that was a scary one too. So those two movies together are like, nope. And then I can't do horror.
Don't ever watch Mrs. Leach and Puppet Master then.
Probably won't.
I'll let Loki talk to this because I wanted your take on this whole hyperspace warp drive thing, folding of space A to B makes it interesting for me. I thought this would be an interesting concept, that you could create two devices that are across space that would create some sort of wormhole technology that you could move through. That seems like a very practical, scientific quantum physics kind of thing that you could be able to construct. That actually makes sense. If you're out there in Mars and you make some sort of like little ring and it creates some sort of wormhole to Earth, we just walk through it. Okay, that actually can make some sense. That actually is something I can get my scientific brain around. Some of the other things that you see in other sci-fi shows sometimes I think are a little too far out from where we are. It's a little hard to get my head around, but it's not necessarily folding space per se, but something similar.
It's called an Einstein-Rosenberg bridge, is what it's called.
And so tesseracting is a thing.
Yeah. Yes, tesseracting is a thing. But in science, it is called an Einstein-Rosenberg bridge. And it is it's theoretically possible, but they're working more and more on the idea of sending light into a device and having it come out the other end.
So fun fact that's going to make y'all laugh. So I was watching this in bed, and when they went through the portal and it did the little scene thing, I was getting up to kind of just walk around, and I fell over and out of the bed because it scared me. Wasn't ready. So I mean, time travel is a thing.
So it's good to see her
I
here.
fell out of the bed during that whole scene. I was like, whoa. Like I traveled.
Every time I see them passing through the wormhole in the back of my head, I've got dun dun da 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 the Doctor Who themes in the back of my head.
Who saw this in theater? Who here saw this in theaters? Besides me.
I would have been about six at the time.
There you go.
So you didn't see it in theaters, Ironcaster, or yes, you did.
Dun.
No, this was one of those VHS movies that I got to see on I stayed over at my friend's house.
If you ever get the chance, go and see it in theaters. The gate travel scene is as crazy like that as you could ever imagine it to be.
Oh my goodness.
It is. It's so cool. That was like, so the last time me and my dad went to see it, which we went and saw it like 12 times in theater. It's the only movie that comes close to The Crow. How many times I saw it in theater. The last time, you want to go see Stargate? And I was like, for the gate scene? He goes, yep. And I was like, okay, let's go. Just for the gate scene. In the middle of the movie and at the end of the movie. So, that was like our favorite bit of the whole thing was going through the gate.
You know, I was thinking, just because this is a Kurt Russell movie. This is one of those movies where it seems to me that he doesn't really stand out quite so much as he does in other films. Because in so many other films, it seems like it's a Kurt Russell vessel, whereas you're going to see Kurt Russell, and here he's there, but he's not quite as sort of in the spotlight of it. He has great moments, especially like at the very beginning, where when you're introduced to him, like in the bedroom, you can just feel the weight of the emotion of just a broken man.
Is it a Kurt Russell movie though, or is it a James Spader movie, or is it both? Is it like a buddy cop movie where you got the buddy nerd and you got the buddy soldier? And is it a buddy movie, or is it a Kurt Russell, or is it a James Spader movie?
What do you think, Ronnie?
Real questions that you can go, you know what, I think it's a buddy cop movie. Or you can say, you know what, it starts out kind of with James Spader. You see James Spader before Kurt Russell. It's kind of a James Spader movie. Or you could be like, you know what, Kurt Russell kind of comes in and takes everything over and he's the leader, so it's a Kurt Russell movie. Any of those answers I find perfectly valid depending on how you, the viewer, want to see it.
What do you think, Ronnie?
Well, I mean, it's a tough one there because I'm so out of the loop on actors. Like, I know these are both important actors, so I'm going to say Kurt Russell movie because he is the main military guy. But yeah, I'm out of my wheelhouse talking about, which actor is top. I just, obviously they're both very critical. I mean, you can't have the movie without either of their roles, and you're not gonna dial that gate without Spader. You're not gonna have a nerdy archaeologist into the movie without Spader's portrayal, right? But the problem with Kurt Russell's rendition of him is he's a Jack O'Neill, but he has no sense of humor. The other guy does. O'Neill with 2 L's has a sense of humor. O'Neill with 1 L does not have a sense of humor.
But that's also because this is a man who's still in mourning.
That's a valid point, very valid. And I mean, it's like literally, it's very raw. I mean, it's a good point because in the beginning of the movie, I mean, it's like they show up at his house and he's clearly not speaking to his wife. He's sitting in that bedroom with his sidearm, contemplating life or not continuing it. And yeah, no, you're right, very raw at that point.
And I don't think he. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I just thought it was very good how we quickly moved through that. We didn't have to have anything spoon-fed to us, whether he was handling the weapon, meaning he was going to take himself out, or he was just reflecting on the demise of his son, or we don't have to get into too much. We just get enough to set up the tragedy and the baggage that he's going to carry on his adventure later on when he meets a surrogate son. And I miss good storytelling. It was nice to get a little dose of something nice, spoonful of.
Well, they don't even tell you that when they go in there. They don't say anything. They go in there, like DJ said. They talk to his wife. They go upstairs. He's sitting there. He's got his hair from Tombstone. I don't know if anybody noticed that or not, but he's got the long hair that comes down past his face, still from Tombstone. He hadn't cut the hair yet. And the next time you see him in the movie, it's he's got the buzz cut. But you don't even know really what's going on with him until they leave and they're getting in the car. He's like, guy seems kind of down on himself. Yeah, his kid shot himself. Oh, damn. And that's when you find out that, why would they go there and do that unless it was extremely important for them to do so? Why would he even accept? He probably wouldn't. They deal with that a little bit in the series. a little bit, I think, in the first season, but after that, I think it's mentioned like once or twice in the entirety of 10 years of SG1. That stuff that happens in the movie. So,
yeah, I think they want to kind of tackle it a couple times within season 1, so it does get quickly addressed. So I remember there's an episode where he kind of reunites with his ex-wife.
Yep.
Well, and I agree
Oh,
with
wait, no,
Pop. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, the whole thing isn't spoon fed from start to finish. Like, they use the body language and just the way they interact together, from him going from the scene where he's on the bed to the very end. Like, it's none of it is some dialogue where somebody exposes the whole thing and says, "Oh, wait, let me tell you a story of what's going on." You get to kind of live through it.
You know, one of the things I especially love with this movie is it has a lot of decent setup and payoff. We aren't getting a lot of things just sort of put in as sort of a last minute, like, oh, we forgot to put in this plot element here or there. It does a fine job of setting things up. Like we see the setup and the payoff with like with the gauntlet for like the teleporter tech.
Oh, that was smooth, yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like for me, it's all about Daniel Jackson. He was my favorite character in the show, and it kind of bleeds over into this. He was always like kind of the in a lot of ways the sort of the main draw of the movie. Like this is the nerd who's got seemingly the answer to everything.
Yeah.
And
I think in the great chemistry. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Oh no, I was just thinking about there's a scene when Catherine Langford, I believe her name is, the old lady, mentions that he's adopted, and there's an SG1 episode where you see Daniel with his real parents, and they're working on some kind of like archaeological thing, but they're lifting very heavy stones, and he's watching his parents, and he's like, "No, Mom, Dad," and the stones fall on them. So like later on, you get like I try to avoid referencing the series as well, but during certain scenes, I do see like connections there.
Yeah, indeed. And I think Slash Red, you're absolutely right. I mean, the film is really in that era that is pre-Abyss, right? It's Terminator 2, but not really overflowed into some like ships and movement type stuff as much. So Abyss kind of is another game changer that came a little bit, a couple of years later. You see this with Mummy as well. So there's a little bit of Mummy, didn't quite, but they've done cleanup on this 4K level, so it looks really nice. It's cleaned up. So
absolutely.
Let's see. Oh, Scott Westbrook, thank you, my friend. Holy cow. $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Stoplight super chat. Oh, man, listen what right. Stoplight super chat. That should be a thing. Hashtag stoplight super chat. Thank you, Scott. Man, you've been such a great friend in all this, man. I'm glad you got through the storm well. You're doing good out there, man. Thank you for all your love and support, man. Take care. Be safe driving, man. One Supergate made sense. The series made a whole network connected by Chevron. Yeah, I thought that was my good first impression. We'll get to the SG1 part in a minute, but I thought that was great. Favorite movie, Lady Miss. Look at that. Oh. Awesome. Great to have you, Tran. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
I thought we did well because it didn't also presume a whole lot. They give us exposition along the way, but I never got bored or tired. So that's not a thing we get much today. Like, so watching this, I watched it because we had this on the slate a couple times. So I think I've watched it 3 times this year, which is crazy to think about. It moves so fast. And I wanted SQUEEKA's thoughts on that too, because it was her first time watching it. This is a very quick moving film, isn't it not?
Yes, it was very. At first, when I looked at it, I was like, "Oh, I started it kind of late, so I was like, "Oh, 2 hours. This is going to be kind of pushing it. I hope I finish." But I didn't even realize that I was at the end when I was at the end, and it was just like you get there, and it really does just say the end. And I was like, "Wait, but I wasn't. Wait, does he go home? What happens with him and the girl? Like, I wasn't ready. Like, it really keeps moving from just from like." Even the smaller like the relationship between Jackson and I can't remember her name. It starts with an S.
Share.
None of them seem too long. Like you have a little bit of information here, and then you go to this scene with the guy still in the pyramid and having radio troubles, and then you come back to the village, and then you go back and you see they're in a fight, and it's just but it wasn't disjointed. It still flowed, but it was just so fast that I wasn't ready. I was like, oh, that's why I want to watch it again, because I feel like I missed parts of it trying to keep up with some of the things that happened. Like I want to go back and watch the.
Yes, Daniel stays at the end. Daniel stays there. Jack goes back. Daniel stays.
Yeah, and I didn't want it to end there. I wanted to, but part of it too was I wanted to hear them talk more and learn more of the language. So that's one of the reasons I want to go back, is I can like learn the language. But it was a very it was faster to me than like some of the other films I'd seen, like Terminator or Alien. Like to me, it seemed a lot faster than those.
Yeah, I think pacing is definitely one of the strongest suits. Loki, what do you think about the fact that they get nice, concise science? Do you know, did they create like a little science Bible, or what the rules in the playbook were going to be? Because it felt very organized and consistent. And obviously I watched a little bit of SG1, so I felt like they passed the baton so perfectly.
Yeah, and SQUEEKA, if you think this movie's good, definitely watch the show. Watch SG1, start out there, and just binge, glorious binge. They really carry what Pops is saying. They really carry that over into the show too. It doesn't start out where we're like, oh, we're making all these our own now, or we're doing this. Everything's a natural progression and a slow build into what this is going to do and how this is going to open up everything for us. They didn't really go crazy with like, oh, well, this can do this, and oh, well, there are phasers on the pyramid, or they didn't do anything that, oh, well, maybe we'll be here in 200, 300 years or anything like that. They kept it very grounded. Okay, so these guys have these staffs that can shoot out these plasma bolts. Okay, well, we can shoot lasers out of C-130s now. They kept it very grounded and very like, what are the possibilities here? I'd say the biggest like leap in the whole movie is the Stargate. A device that can transport you from A to B, it doesn't matter how far away it is, instantaneously. That's the biggest technology in the whole movie, is the actual Stargate. Ra's ship is impressive, sure, his pyramid's impressive, but obviously you'd want to use the Stargates to travel faster. So
I did love the ship shape. Like I thought that was, usually you see like, though, there's the really long ones that look like aircraft carriers, or even like the Enterprise, like usually you get this, or even in Star Wars there's like this, oh, these have to be spaceships have to look like this. But the fact it came down and it was a pyramid on top of a pyramid, I loved that. I was like, of course it is. Of course.
These spaceships are Egyptian. How can you tell?
I know. I was just like, oh, I don't know why I expected.
Ironcaster, this had to be in your Nexus era there. So what was it like, growing up in the sort of like the tech thing? 'Cause that's what it sounds like to me. Like you got into this really young and really was into this sort of like the mythos of the Stargate stuff that led right into this show. So it's, again, I did not know you were so immersed in all this. So I'm totally thrilled that this worked out like this. So.
This was one of those movies that really got me into wanting to like know how Hollywood pulled off some of the stunts they did. So, there's always that wondering, like, how did they get how did they get the giant burst of like the water coming out of the Stargate, only to kind of eventually discover that they shot a giant air cannon at a pool of water, or that for the spiraling effect, they would just like basically make a little vortex and it would naturally go down. So like they were literally just filming water. It's such a simple solution to it that thanks to some innovations with CG, they were able to take practical effects and find new and amazing ways to really tell fantastical stories.
They experimented with that when they did the ID4, right? Because the ID4, the ships come through, and you have that smoke that precedes the ship before you see them. So it's a similar kind of thing with their tech. I guess that was definitely within their wheelhouse for sure. What about you, Ronnie G? You haven't really spent much about the tech because you're really into that kind of thing. You got really immersed in the show and stuff like that. But how did the movie kind of set that up for you? Do you think that baton passed well to the show?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like you mentioned before, someone mentioned the gauntlet to the hand, being able to, give access to the rings being the beam me up, contraption, the teleportation of that allows you to go from the ground pyramid into Ra's mothership. And so right there, that later on does have some payoff during the series, I guess. But bottom line is, I mean, it's like one of the things in like discussions about the series that directly apply to the movie is the nature of the Goa'uld, or whatever they're calling the aliens in this movie. I think they're just, Ra. But anyway, the thing about them are they are kind of backwards. Like they apparently are scavengers, which isn't established here, but they don't look like the kind of, aliens that are doing a lot of science. They look like the kind of aliens that like they know that if you take nuclear rock or whatever this rock that is radioactive is, and you use that mineral with a nuke, they know that they'll get more bang, and they probably figured that out through trial and error, while subjugating other people, and so they basically like it was beautiful in a way, because I remember there's a scene when Ra wants to show his wrath, right? He wants to like tell the people, hey, stay in your place. So he sends 2 fighter planes, 2 death gliders over the city or town in order to shoot some plasma at them. And it's like, they don't need to be precise. And this is something that's later talked about, where these aren't necessarily weapons of precision, they're weapons of fear. And so a lot of what the Goa'uld does is, like, they obviously have this magical technology, and that is enough to keep these people subjugated until a group of young men from the Air Force show up.
And one of the things that does translate over, one of the big things, Daniel's sitting there, and it's the scene where he's talking about Ra, and he's talking about how his body was dying, and he shows up on Earth to find a new body, and he takes this kid and he possesses him like a parasite. That is absolutely 100% the way the show interprets everything. What the movie kind of, if ends or others, is what that looks like. So whoever is writing the story on the wall that Daniel Jackson's reading in the movie, all it is, well, they got one little part wrong, because they're telling the story like they heard it from someone. Someone told them, oh, well, we heard Ra talk about blah, 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 and this is what he said. So they didn't see it happen. They didn't see him go back and take this kid's body. He just did it. And eventually the story, magnifies or changes or whatever. So it made perfect sense eventually for you to find out that, well, it is a parasite. It's exactly what they said it was. It might not look like what they said it was, but it is exactly what they said it was. A parasite that inhabits a host. And there are more of them. And of course, they would know that because they're this guy's slaves. They're his slave labor. They're not allowed to read. They're not allowed to write. They're not allowed to keep a history of their own stuff. So all they have is word of mouth that's been passed down, a verbal history, and that changes. So of course they'd be like, no, he's the only one. He's the only one, because they're only supposed to worship one, and that's the way all these little crazy gold are, is they want you to worship them like they're the only God in the universe. Nobody else exists. And they know better.
Just to point it out, it's Eric Avari played the priest of the people on the desert island, the desert planet.
He's good.
Great actor who's been in a ton of stuff. He's one of those actors that you see in shows and you don't quite know his name, but you recognize him. Also in the same movie, Richard Kind.
Yes, and he plays a hilarious character on Stargate Atlantis.
Yeah, these are great actors who deserve a little bit of praise as well for their own rights. But you're absolutely right. That's the only way that story would have been able to go down, is just that oral tradition of the people telling the story to themselves, because well, they dare not have a written word, or Ra dare not give them the knowledge of writing and reading. Otherwise, they could plan to rebel.
Yep.
It makes it that much harder.
I think they did a good job of giving us also a believable culture and civilization that's been so adequately oppressed. It's not like Raw and his people needed to police them regularly. They were policing their own. They were living in such self-imposed fear, and it unravels. So it makes it believable when it unravels quickly, because it's kind of like held by a thread of just that little veil of fear behind like the I want to say I don't know what is he just a king? I don't know the appropriate title of Shiar's dad or whatever. So the fact that it just, once that bubble's burst, then it can all collapse on itself. Sometimes when I watch sci-fi or complex, historical films, they try to get so far in the weeds, and you're like, yeah, we could disrupt the apple cart, but there's just another person to take the place. It wouldn't cause a collapse of a whole society or empire or something like this. This felt very, very believable.
He's like a village elder. So Daniel calls him good father. He's like the village elder. He's like the leader of the people. So.
Well, I think it was easier for them to rebel, not just because they had the language, but because they did have someone to fall back on. Like, because of the amulet, they already trusted him, but he made himself trustworthy. So they weren't afraid of kind of killing their god, so to speak, just because Daniel was there, and he was like, okay, well, they had someone that could lead them rather than them trying to lead themselves out of slavery, which is a hard thing to do.
I want to get to at least a little bit of talk about, or maybe because you pull up any images of some of the practical effects to make some of these things. They look so good, guys. I got to be honest. Every time I watched it this last few weeks, I was just so impressed. We talked about the helmets briefly, but even just the way the sarcophagus works. So basically the equivalent of like a Lazarus pits in the sarcophagus that, rejuvenates Ra and brings Daniel back. And then just all these different elements. I loved all that. I mean, I don't know, Ronnie, you with me? Are you like a little nerd when it comes to practical effects and stuff? Because I just loved all that stuff.
I'm all about the sarcophagus, because this guy here, this alien, is ugly as sin, and that guy needs a beauty makeover, some kind of facelift, and apparently that sarcophagus is one heck of a piece of tech, because apparently it's enough to keep this ugly bastard going. But jokes aside, I mean, like, I love the Egyptian motif of all of the technology, because it ties in with, like, whether, a lot of theories are true or not. It's like it ties into a lot of, like, that ancient alien like type of stuff, and it's like, okay, we find, sarcophagi in Egypt, and yes, there's a mummy in there, but maybe the Egyptians modeled that after a piece of technology. So they saw the real sarcophagus. They saw that when the mummy goes in there, he comes back out alive. So they're thinking, hey, let's try to replicate that, So I just love the way it works. I think it, like, the Egyptian motif on most of the technology really works.
What do you think, Ironcaster? You're a little with me with the whole practical effects nerddom.
Oh, it's fantastic. Getting to see, like, for example, the helmets, like the Anubis helmets with or the Ra helmets with the little ear wings just moving independently, the eyes focusing in, sharpening. You're like, oh, I want to just study this face.
I did neglect to mention. I'm sorry. Go on.
Oh, it's like, I want to know all about this thing. Like, I want the action figure of this thing.
Yo, that would be cool. Yeah, but I neglected to mention.
I was surprised. I was surprised there were actually action figures when I pulled that trailer. I was like, wait, there's a 1994 action figure. So you had to be all down with that for sure.
I didn't have any of that. I didn't have any of that. I don't know why. I might have been like, I'd have been, what, 13, 14? So probably not. The only reason why I have some of the SG-1 stuff is because I love SG-1. And yeah, I'm not going to say anything else about that, because I don't want to ruin anything for anybody that's out there listening that hasn't watched the series, because the series is so damn good.
Yeah, like
who would never? Who wouldn't watch the series? I mean, I would. I mean, that's, yeah. Who out there?
Well, I mean,
watched it.
I'm 2
it's
episodes
not like
ahead
you got
of
any more Halo to watch.
No, it's true. It's true. And I will say, the only thing that confused me or slowed me down was the fact that they just didn't call. They went from episode 1 to 3, and I had to kind of look it up to realize, oh, it's a two-parter. That's why it was an hour and a half long. Blah, blah, blah. So I was good to go. So no, I'm good. I'm gonna watch episode 3 this week. I'm good. At least get another episode.
Oh, so I gotta catch up to Pops and get up to 3.
You think we'll do a video? You and I'll do a video. We won't even include all these other experts. We'll feel like complete morons if we.
Oh no, I love the experts, because I love that I get to ask questions about what it influences or what's going on or what. I love being around experts after watching a movie for the first time. Are you kidding? This is a great.
Well, we have so much of that. It's like I get overwhelmed. So I just yeah, gotcha.
But I did like to mention about
didn't last long. Huh.
Not in stores, but yeah, I think I'd like to mention about. I'm sorry, when I responded to your question about practical effects, I touched so much on just the Egyptian style technology. I didn't even mention what I thought about the practical effects, but honestly, it kind of blurred together. But I did notice it was well executed. In particular, when you see someone fire a staff weapon, which is that stick that fires plasma bullets, like. You had the explosions happening in the right places. I imagine that involves some kind of pyrotechnics or something. And the actors looked like they were falling and flying. So, yeah, I give that a good grade.
I love this part.
Yeah, this was top notch. I loved it.
I love this guy. I don't know if I've seen movies with him or not.
James Spader.
But maybe, I don't know. But I love
James Spader. So James Spader played Daniel Jackson. Michael Shanks plays Daniel Jackson in the series, but does like a convincing James Spader impression for the first 2 years until he gets kind of on his own. So, but no, the wonder when he like just goes up and plays with it. He's like, oh, like he's like a little kid messing with the TV for the first time. It's absolute wonder.
But then also with that, of all the perspectives we get going through, it's his. He has that almost childlike wonder to it. So we get to see him going through the Stargate. Not any of the soldiers. It's him. We're experiencing it as he is, because he is in many ways the stand-in for the audience.
And I love that his glasses and hat stayed on too. That was amazing.
I nerded out quite a bit because I took Latin so much in high school and into college, and I always thought to myself, I could relate to Daniel, like where he's like getting her to actually pronounce the words properly. Like he knows what certain things are, and she's like correcting like his pronunciation. I'm like, oh, that would be like me learning Latin when I was. It's like, oh, I just thought, oh, that was really cool. I know it's like a little nuance that probably doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but for me, that was like a cool connection that I had that I didn't think about until this last week watching it again.
Oh, that's great too when he's like mouthing it out when he's like, and she's like Zakarim, and he's like, huh? Is it Zakarim? He's like and then Natari Turu, and she's like, no, Niri Naturu, and he's like, Naturu. Holy shit, we're
That's what I do for a living. Like we use picture symbols and we translate for the students to teach them how to say these. We also work on things like articulation, and that happens in my job where I can show them a potato and they say something and I correct it to potato and they know it's a potato in their language, and we just kind of work together to figure this out. So it was that's why I want to go back and watch it for that part. Like I loved the language part, because that is exactly how we acquire language.
Well, the one little thing as well in there that I think is worth mentioning as well is they even kind of put in a line about language drift. How these people isolated on this planet who are all speaking this one language over time are going to necessarily just slowly start to the language they use to slowly shift over time. So it's gonna veer off from what we would have had, even if this seemingly dead language for us for 1,000 years would have been around. Like it would have had some differences there. So there is that extra plausibility of, well, he's not going to know any of this language.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I just really loved all this world building from concept art all the way through execution. And then I know, hey, we still got a little bit of time. I don't want to jump to the TV series more than we already have, but I just feel like the world building for this was just way better done and set up more questions. And I hearing Ironcaster, his enthusiasm, hearing Ronnie G with his regrets, like, oh man, I wish I had just found this so many years sooner. And of course, I know Loki's obsessed, so I get now so much more appreciation seeing that first episode of SG1, and I'm sure when I'm 30 to 50 episodes into this franchise, I'll understand even more so. Hence the reason I'm also doing my rewatch of Trek. So I'm trying to better appreciate some of the immersion of the Trek side of things, because that wasn't my thing either. So
I think you're looking at around like 300 and change total.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Is it
So
like 194 for SG1?
No, it's over 200 because they do the 200. They do
That's
the
right.
200th episode.
Was that the one with the was that the one with the puppets?
Yes, that's the one with the Farscape thing and the puppets. Yes.
Yeah, that just real quick. One of the things that I think really is such a big appeal with Stargate is, I mean, whereas we have sci-fi franchises like Star Trek, which have this kind of noble, bright outlook on humanity and the stars, like we're going to go aspire to be the best and the best we possibly can. This series kind of looks at it under this sort of more realistic approach to say, no, if something like this comes along, it's going to be militarized. So when we're sending people out there, we're sending soldiers. They're going to be carrying guns.
Yeah, to defend themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say what made this even more interesting or unique for me was the fact that, and again, you guys let me know what lines with it better, is that they're there to steal resources, but it didn't go well on Earth, right? The Earth revolted, so they had a way to shut the gate off. So the complexity of that is so much more believable than just it's just another locust coming to steal all the resources again story. And this was way more interesting to have this dynamic of an alien race who's going to enslave people and steal their resources, but you could just shut that off. You could just overthrow them and do it like they did on Earth. Like I thought that was way more interesting and dynamic than I had remembered it to be.
And Ra doesn't give a rat's behind about Earth. That's the thing. He's not going to come to Earth and try and take over. He's just going to blow it up. You guys are insignificant. You have become too technologically advanced and aware to the point that you can figure our stuff out. You can start to figure our stuff out for yourselves. So what am I going to do? I'm going to send your nuclear device back to your planet with enough of my rock that it's going to basically blow a hole in your entire planet. And I don't care, because it gets rid of you and you never, ever come to this planet ever again and challenge me and anything like that. He doesn't care about going back to Earth and reacquiring what he feels belongs to him. He's just going to blow it up because he doesn't give a crap.
Well, how many other planets does he have?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure this isn't his only one. I haven't watched the series, so I don't know. But I mean, who knows how many he had?
Exactly. In just the movie, in just movie terms, that immediately opened the door of, he came to this planet by ship from space. Where was he before he got there? What was he doing? And how can he be like, you know what? I'm not even going to worry about all those people back on your planet. I'm just going to blow them up and I'm going to kill them all, because you're now a thorn in my side and someone that could possibly challenge my power. And I'm not going to deal with that at all. I'm just going to take you all out and not worry about that planet anymore. So, I mean, it makes it very aware he's got to have more somewhere else.
There was a great moment in this where Kurt Russell, Jack O'Neill, he's in the throne room, or was it Daniel Jackson? Or no, it was Kurt Russell. He's in the throne room. He's got Ra dead to rights, and then they have all these children coming in to protect their god.
Yep.
Which is playing off of that character build up we got at the very start of the movie.
Yep. And he doesn't even need the kids. That's a thing. They can just put him in the sarcophagus and fix him. So he doesn't need the kids to do that, but he's going to stand there and he's going to let them do it. He's going to let them sacrifice themselves for him, because he imagines he is a god. He believes it. He's so powerful and so technologically advanced that in his mind, I'm better than all these little creatures scurrying about, so maybe I am a god.
Well, could they just be replacements for his little henchmen? Like they're not actually his replacements; they're just replacements for the guys in the suits.
Oh yeah, I'm sure one day they would be. They're his, like, you know, they're the ones he's bringing up to worship him and take care of him and to pamper him, and yeah, oh yeah.
Very talented actor too. Oh, no spoilers, anybody, in case someone like SQUEEKA's never seen it. This is the crying game performer. So messed up from that role that didn't do much acting past this film. So very, very underrated, young, just a couple films and out kind of thing. So no one spoil Crying Game for anyone who's never seen it, because the movie's complete garbage if you know what the twist is. So don't spoil it. So,
well,
yeah.
The one thing about this movie that I was hearing in a documentary was the raw actor here had nipple rings. He insisted on not removing, so they had to kind of costume him around that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know what I do when I find out that, oh, you've got nipple rings, you don't want to get rid of them? Give me the casting director on the phone. Hey, I want somebody else. I know we've already
not
casted.
this kid. They went after this kid for, like, he wanted $1 million bucks, and he came with demands. Trust me, I looked it up quickly because I'm like, is that kid? Yeah, because he's a messed up little dude, and yeah, I guarantee this was they played this. Cause again, think about the 90s, right? This is the 90s. This is when that was a big deal. So yeah. So let's see, what else did I miss here? Anything else? I think it's just. Oh, I know. These are crazy.
Should we just real quick touch on just the desert itself?
Yeah, they're on location, right?
Yeah, and from what all accounts I was hearing, like they were filming like 120 plus degrees.
Oh yeah,
because this is what that like Southern America / Mexican desert, the Yobi Desert,
Kobe.
The Kobe Desert.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. I thought of Tremors. We were talking about the documentary and some of the behind the scenes photos that I saw too. I thought of Tremors and how they filmed in the heat, and it would be cold, it would be hot. And it's like, oh, just crazy conditions for sure.
I don't like sand. It's coarse. It's rough. It gets everywhere.
Tremors is the one with the big worms, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just Googled it, and it says Buttercup Valley outside of Yuma, Arizona. I just love that. Buttercup.
Yep. Yuma. It's the Yuma Desert. Yes.
Maybe that's the color of the sand.
Chris got to head out. Hail to you, brother. Listen, be good. Thanks for everything, my friend.
Take care, brother.
Have a
All right,
good
so
night.
I know we're getting close to the end, but I want to make sure I squeeze in. I will say this, and I won't spoil anything, SQUEEKA, but I'll say this about SG-1. It takes place 1 year later, and we kind of have a manufactured situation that the gate opens, something happens, and might as well get the people back together and know stuff about this. And then it answers your question, like how many gates could there be? How do we move around with gates? What happens? And it just immediately sends you on like this crazy adventure. And I have to admit, I get it. What a great job of taking, like, it was like fan love. I don't understand the backstory of who the creators are behind the show. So you guys fill in my gaps on the fan love. This is truly passionate people. This is not, oh, we got to make some money on this. No, there's no way. These have to be people who are like diehard fans of the film to make this happen. So fill in some gaps for me if you could.
I think it might have been the original creators basically got involved, and well, Showtime was
Showtime.
Yep,
they made a deal with Showtime, and once it got moved to the Sci-Fi Channel, that changed a lot of stuff. But the original team made a deal with Sci-Fi. Obviously, the original writer wasn't. They didn't really want anything to do with it. It's one of those. There's a lot of shows back then that were kind of like that, where the original creator was like, "No, I've moved on. I'm doing this movie. I'm doing that movie, or I'm working on this."
Well, TV was viewed as a step down back then, so that's part of it too.
Yeah. So So it wasn't until they moved they did a decent job. The first like 3 seasons are good. They're not great. They're not what we get later, but they're good. When Joe Malozzi and his team and DeLuise, it's Dom DeLuise's kid. It's his oldest kid. I can't remember. Peter DeLuise.
Pete, yep.
When Pete DeLuise and Joseph Malozzi came on board, that is when they started like completely picking up pace and making into this what you have today, what Stargate is today, with Stargate SG-1, with Stargate Atlantis, with Stargate SGU. Pete DeLuise and Joseph Malozzi are the reasons why it kept going and why it kept getting better and better and better as it went along. You can objectionably argue about SGU. I am right there with you. I'm one of those people that's like, how could you do this when you made fun of this at this point? But they cared about it, and they were trying, and they cared about it. They loved it. You can tell that. And everything that went into it that they cared about and loved it just didn't work. So,
well, you also have to look at kind of the surrounding stuff that was going on, because Battlestar Galactica was out, and that was basically the big sci-fi show that everyone was kind of leaning towards. So sci-fi just won another BSG. Yeah.
So let me ask: is it a hot take to say, after just watching my 1 episode, special pilot or whatever it was? Is it a hot take to say that Michael Shanks is a way better Jackson than MacGyver was O'Neill? Because I'm like, MacGyver is like he's calling it in half the time. I know he's supposed to be kind of more damaged goods a year later, but I felt like Michael Shanks is killing it as a freaking Jackson. Like there's times where he's like spot on with Spader's mannerisms too. Like I totally get him. I felt like MacGyver felt just okay. I don't know.
Okay, here's what's going to happen.
I'm sure,
and
it wouldn't have lasted this long if it wasn't good. But
I won't ruin anything. But yes, Michael Shanks is doing a spot-on James Spader impression. Eventually, he completely takes over the character with more of who he is, and it's 10 times better than it is when it starts. Daniel Jackson's my favorite character in all of Stargate. He always will be. What MacGyver, as he grows into being O'Neill, it's more and more him, and that bounces back and forth between Daniel and him. Whereas Daniel is like, Jack, we have more obligation to do this, and this. Jack's like, Daniel, I swear, if you tell me that one more time, I'm machine gun everybody in this village. Jack, we can't do that. And the more that happens, the more when you see them like 10 years later, and Daniel's like, Jack, and Jack's like, Daniel, and they're about to get into that conversation.
Okay.
That you're like, this is why I love this, because it's still that dynamic of Jackson, O'Neill from the movie. There's still that dynamic where Jack's like, okay, I'm just going to blow it all up then. And Daniel's like, what are you doing? You can't do that. Where did the bomb come from? Jack, what are you doing? Why did you come here? All of that still translates to the point where you're at episode 200 and you're like laughing your balls off because they're still making this a funny, wonderful, interesting way to do it. But you love them so much more because you've had all this time with them that it's like, thank you for once again doing this and making me laugh my ass off.
And then of course, in that big mix, you get the cast expands, because then you also get Amanda Tapping coming in as Major Carter, and you have Christopher Judge as Teal'c, just fully fleshing this out. It's the man of few words can have some of the best lines of dialogue, has some of the best jokes.
And I don't know if you got about the sex, just because my sexual organ's on the inside instead of the outside. Oh, they like roast her. They totally roast her for that, 8 years down the road. Bro, I can't believe I said that. And you're just like, yes, thank you for going back and memeing yourselves, and even having her go, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I ever said that. I can't believe I ever agreed to say that.
Ronnie, what is your favorite element from the film that carried over to the show?
Ooh. I mean, the fact that they basically retained the Cheyenne Mountain complex. I mean, they called it something else in the movie, but they retained their missile silo bunker setup. They basically kept the control room, the embarkation room. I mean, the gate room. But you know, if you remember the episode where they said gate room, and then someone goes, "No, it's the embarkation room." Silly. But anyway, but seriously, I just love that they kept that bunker base. Obviously, they kept the prop. They didn't make a crappy plastic gate like they did in Stargate Origins. You know, but yeah, like
that lights up.
yeah, like this is a beautiful gate here. I don't know how they made this one, but the other one I know they made it out of dog poo. Well, I don't know. It looked like vacuum formed plastic to me, but I'm guessing
it was vacuum formed plastic, is what it was.
But yeah, I'm glad that
they got rid of all the pneumatic, they got rid of all the hydraulics in it that you know had the chevrons opening up, and just all the great just hardware that went into making this physical prop, like the most arguably iconic element of your show.
You gotta here's the deal though. You gotta understand that what you see later, what DJ RONNIE G is talking about is a much older model than what you see in the movie. So that model that you see of the gate in SGU, the one that's modeled after plastic, is supposed to be an ancient model before they built the gate that's on Earth and in the pyramid. So it's going to look different. It's older technology. It's pre what you ever see in the first movie. And I know it, and I agree with DJ. It looks cheap, but it's also supposed to be a pre SG-1 model.
Well,
it's supposed to be tens of thousands of years older than the model of the gate that you see in the movie.
Well, just to clarify, the gate from SG, I keep mixing up SGU and SGO, so I may have mixed them up, but this one here is the one from the what do you call it, the mini series, the little mini series movie they came out with like 5 years ago. So they had to rebuild the gate from the movie basically, or the TV series, because apparently it was auctioned off. So you're right though, like the SGU gate is crappier looking, but that one I'm okay with, because like you said, it is a very old model. It is like the first generation Stargate, which came out before the model that we see on Earth, you know, under the Giza Plateau. Yeah. And interestingly, during SGU, there's an episode where they actually do damage to the gate, where a drone shoots something and it actually blows a hole through the gate, which would be unconscionable. It's something that you would never see on a Milky Way Stargate or a Pegasus Galaxy Stargate. Those are made out of knockwater. They're pretty much indestructible to a point, right? They're not going to get a hole blown through them by a sidearm or by a mortar round. But
you could set off a nuke. You could set up a nuke, and the dang thing would survive. Yeah,
exactly. So that thing's sturdy. Now, the other one I was talking about was this one in the picture up here. This is from SGO, Stargate Origins. Do you remember that miniseries that?
No, I never watched it.
Oh, okay. Well, this
I heard how bad it was. As soon as I heard how bad it was, I was like, no.
yeah. I don't think you missed out on anything there.
I thought you were talking about the SGU gate, not that.
Yeah, but you did bring up some very relevant lore, because that at least, you know, see, I'm okay with, if I like something, I'm okay with rationalizing, you know, certain deficiencies, and you know, the fact that it is a first-gen gate, that works. You know, for my purposes, I'm okay with it looking crappy because it's a first-gen gate. But when they went to do Stargate Origins and they built this thing, I mean, it just, you know, didn't look right. And maybe, granted, there's no post, you know, being done on this image here, but yeah, not satisfactory.
I thought they didn't count that as canon because the writers didn't go along with anything else that was before it. I thought it was its own thing.
Probably is, because when I watched it, it definitely looks like it was filmed by film students, and there's some like after, you know, behind the scenes shots, and yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I've never really heard anyone insist that it was canon. So yeah, I'm pretty hopeful on that being the case.
All right, well, let's Let's kind of wind down. Let's start with SQUEEKA because it was your first time watching it, lady. Kind of give us an idea of your final thoughts. I don't know if you want to watch it again. You have a score or not. I don't know how you want to kind of evaluate your Stargate experience.
Oh, solid 10 out of 10 if I'm going to rate something. But I mean, I'm certainly going to watch it again. I'll cry less, of course, but I want to watch it again. I want to like pause at parts and actually really get into it. But now I'm stoked to watch the series now. Like y'all have been talking about it. I'm like, wait, if it continues and it's like, it sounds like they really did a good job on it. I'm like, man, I wanted the story to continue to begin with. So now I get it. So I know what I'm binge watching, at least episode 3 this weekend.
And it does continue for over 300 glorious episodes.
So yeah, I'll be watching this for the next 5 years of my life. But it's the movie, like it was more amazing than I thought it would be, because I've heard of it, I've seen parts of it, of course, with the series, like it's Stargate's a thing, you know of it, but I never realized it was this good, and I was so bummed it was only 2 hours.
Oh, don't worry, you'll have plenty of more after this.
I know, but this is probably, I mean, I've watched a lot of new movies. It's really a tie with Seven Samurai as like my new top 2nd favorite movie. It's so amazing. I could see why Ironcaster is all about it.
I will say, Ironcaster, I was surprised to know that you were such a diehard What are the Stargate fans called? They have a nickname, right? No?
I don't know. Gators?
Gators.
I know Gator.
I don't even know what to say of all that. Yes.
So, long story short, it is Lawrence of Arabia in space. That was one of the selling points of the movie that was kind of in sort of behind the scenes way people talked about it, which is interesting because I was watching it and I had to stop it, and had to stop at one point and send you guys a message like, wait a minute, guys, you listen to this music cue here and it kind of sounds like that Lawrence of Arabia theme, where you're discovering the village for like the first time. You're like, son of a bitch.
See, now I need to watch Lawrence of Arabia. See, now I'll put that on the list too.
Yeah, save that one, SQUEEKA. We'll have to do that one as a group because we'll have to do a serious epic at some point, probably in the spring, and we'll do something like Lawrence of Arabia.
I just got my rewatch out of the way yesterday for it.
Yeah, went to the theater. It's pretty awesome. Yep.
So, long story short, this is the start of a beautiful little sci-fi world of fun. I do think there's a little bit of a lull in the second act that kind of in the revisit that I kind of would like to see it kind of punched up a little bit more. It's also, but the thing is, it's so much fun and it goes into a nostalgic place for me. This is a solid like 8.5 out of 10. So we'll say 4. I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5.
All right, that's very solid. Very solid. DJ RONNIE G, my friend, thanks for being with us tonight and our special guest. Talk about a little bit your score, final thoughts on the film, and set everything up.
Well, I mean, like I said, originally for a long time, half of my childhood, when I was 7 to like 14, 15 years old, I think from even possibly my whole teenage life, this was the sci-fi movie that is not Star Trek. And so I automatically discounted it as being some schlock like Contact or The Arrival or whatever sci-fi movie you guys seen in the past but didn't enjoy as much as everything that is good. And I was disappointed, but in myself for missing out for all of those years. But just in talking about the movie in a vacuum, I mean, it definitely had a lot of things that can be used to seed a series, and it sure as heck did. But on its own, sure, there was, like you said, Ironcaster, pointed out parts where things maybe slowed down a bit. But for the most part, I think establishing, who Daniel Jackson is, what he's about, getting that, meeting where he meets Catherine and gets inducted into working for the Air Force in some capacity. all of the way that, he's kind of like, a nerdy guy. He's confident he could translate it, but he's also kind of like, didn't communicate very well to say, well, I don't know how to translate it yet, but I can translate it if I see more symbols on the other side. But it like allowed the plot to go forward. I mean, like at some point he accidentally gets married. Like I'm pretty sure, right? Is that what happened?
Yes, he
with
marries
him?
Shara. He gets married to Shara, yes.
And was that like an accident because of what he drew in the sand? Did he draw like a symbol that says, I want to marry your daughter? How the heck did that happen?
That was, okay, he wanted to assure him that they didn't want anything to do with writing, and they wanted to make him happy. So how am I going to make you happy? I'm going to give you my most beautiful daughter, who is pure as everything. Here, you can have her. And they marry her, and they tell her, you're married now. Go to your husband. He's your husband. We're going to make the god happy. And she was given to him as his sacrifice, wife, whatever, to make sure he was happy, so that he knew we don't want nothing to do with writing. We know better. We know what happens. We know you'll come in and destroy everything and wipe us off the planet if we be writing. So no writing, please, we know Ra, sun god. Yes, we will give you our most beautiful maiden, my oldest daughter, to love and care for.
That clarifies a lot for me, or quite enough for me, to understand what's going on. Because there's also a scene where Daniel Jackson is talking to Shara, and I'm just seeing if I have a picture, which I don't need the picture to really, bottom line, she draws a diagram. So apparently, like, maybe she, maybe was into art on her own time. Maybe she did the taboo art, I don't know, on the floor in her yurt, or whatever they call it, a hut, But anyway, long story short, I mean, I give it a 4 out of 5 as well, because, I'd have to knock off some points because, just judging it in a vacuum on its own merits, there are things that maybe could be done better. And, I have no real complaints. Like, I love the way the helmet goes on and off, but if I overanalyze that scene, which I might have done, I might have replayed it a few times, sure, I can see some minor flaws in it. I mean, it's not a critical sin. When you're watching the movie, you're not really looking to see where the helmet folds up. But no, I really got no complaints. I think like it establishes the way that Ra is, running a sort of backwards culture where the people don't get the benefits of the technology. He has them doing subsistence mining, or whatever you call it, artisan mining, where they're manually, hammering out rock, and they're waiting online to deliver their offering of nakwater, or whatever the mineral is called, to their god. And it's like, he could give them some jackhammers and get a lot more ore, but it's not important to Ra to make them efficient. He's getting what he wants at as much of a rate as he needs it. So why speed it up? Don't want to give them weapons by accident now, So yeah, I like this time I paid more attention to the movie, and there were certain things like the writing taboo that, really stuck out at me, and it helped me to kind of like just, establish the world in my mind's eye that I'm going to be seeing when I rewatch SG1 again. Because of course, when you watch this, it's like, just, I don't know, anytime I watch this movie, I at least have to watch a few episodes, if not the entire series.
Yeah, great stuff.
4 out of 5.
I would say, Loki, I was kind of surprised because as we were prepping for this, I hadn't thought about the fact that in 30 years, look at how much Stargate content there's been. And this IP and this franchise never gets brought up on the level and the caliber at some of these others. And there's been more Stargate than there is some of those, for sure.
Yep. And don't get the Blu-ray. Whatever you do, don't buy the Blu-ray. No.
What did they do? Over sharpen it and over smooth it and take out the noise?
There's this scene. And so there's this scene in the movie where Jack's talking to the general, and Daniel's like, I can do it. I can get us back. I'm sure of it. Are you positive? I'm sure I can get us back. And O'Neill turns around and he's smoking, and he goes, he's full of shit. But he says it so low that you can't make it out. Even in the theater, you can't make out what he's saying, and you can barely hear it. First time I really understood what he's saying was on the DVD. You can hear it clearly, and he's like, he's full of shit, right? Well, they come out with the special edition, which has the gold pyramid, it's gold cover on the DVD, and it's the extended edition. I buy that. Then I get the Blu-ray, thinking this is going to be even better. he's full of it. And I'm like, what? I come off the couch like Leo in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, pointing at the TV. I was like, that's not what he says. That's not what he says. And then they came out with the 4K, so I can't deal with the Blu-ray because the Blu-ray sucks ass because of that one bit. Because he doesn't say that. He says he's full of shit. That's not. He doesn't say all that. So I get the 4K, and what do you know? Jack turns around smoking. He's full of shit, and I'm like, thank you. Thank you so much for putting it back in the movie and fixing it. You guys are legends. Don't take that out ever again. I don't know why you did it for the Blu-ray, but by God, do not do that ever again. I love this movie. I've seen this movie 100 times. I'll keep watching it.
When you said that, I thought you were talking about like the complete series box set with like SG1, and I'm like, wait, no, it's something wrong with the collected series?
No, I've got the Blu-ray and I've got the DVD. So the DVD set I've got for the series is really nice. It comes in a big gold box. It's got the gate on the front of it. It says Stargate. You take that completely off the series, and it's got 2 books. You open it up, and the books have all of the symbols on it. They've got all of your DVDs. You can close that up, put it back in the box, put the gate back over it. Really cool. The Blu-ray set is not as cool, but obviously the picture quality for the later seasons is better. The first like 3 or 4 seasons, you still got grainy DVD looking stuff, but the audio's good. The audio's better. So Blu-ray is definitely worth it. If you can get the Blu-ray there, I know there's a set right now on Amazon that you can get that has SG1 Blu-ray, Stargate Atlantis Blu-ray, and SGU on Blu-ray. You get one big set and you've got everything, and it's like $100-something bucks. So that would be my best suggestion if you want to get into the series. If you don't just want to stream it and binge it and never own it. I've got to own it. This is a 10 out of 10 movie for me. That's my score. That's what you're going to get. I love it. I love it so much that Leo off the couch. That's not what he said. Damn it. He said he's
and I'm with you, man. And I'm with you too, man. Pat, I'm sorry, man. I'm with Loki on this too because Kurt Russell's not going to be saying, yeah, he's full of it. No, not my snake biscuit. No, not my Kurt Russell. My Kurt Russell's dropping an S-bomb. He doesn't care. And there's no way that DVD, that Blu-ray transfer goes out, man. Kurt Russell should have called somebody, man. Hey, listen, I don't know who at the studio made that change. I need to change right back right now. Anyway,
yep.
There you go. Cool, guys. Very good. That's a good time. What do you think, SQUEEKA? We got you on a new thing you hadn't seen again. Look, we're on a roll.
I know. I'm so excited. I mean, if I'm not here for next Tuesdays, it's probably because I'm binge watching. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, next week is another one I doubt you've seen because it's pretty dramatic, right? Because I doubt you've seen Training Day.
Nope, haven't seen it. Wait, isn't there like several of them? Or is it just one?
Not Training.
No, just
We're
one.
just watching the movie.
Okay.
We're just watching the movie, and it is an Oscar-worthy performance, and you'll know why. And yeah, great
Denzel
film.
Washington is the GOAT in this movie.
Yeah, I got to give some love to Ethan Hawke too, man. Ethan Hawke's really good in this movie.
Oh yeah,
He's overshadowed by Denzel, but yeah, great movie.
Denzel is the GOAT
for this movie, but I've never seen the movie.
Denzel is the GOAT. He is he's like King Kong ain't got shit on me. Oh boy, he right. He don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So good stuff. So, folks out there, thank you all for being here with us, hanging out. DJ Ronnie G, brother, thank you for coming in, man. It's awesome to have you with us. It's been great.
Thank you.
And thanks for helping us inspire so many people. I love hearing so many people like, I need to watch this. I need to watch this again. I need to binge this. I've never watched the show. You've warmed our hearts. You've made this all worthwhile. Thank you all for doing that and being here. Thank you to you wonderful folks out here and you guys hanging out with us, man. Thank you guys. Next week, we'll be doing Training Day. Make sure you check out the description. All the links are there. Get everybody connected to everything. Let's see. I didn't have an outro totally set. So we'll go with the old Halo outro, and we'll go from there. Take care, everybody. Be blessed. Talk hard.